Chapter 2. Family. The four of us were sat around the small dining table at the back of the living room. My sister Esther and her son Finley had joined me and my mum Charlotte for a roast dinner. Esther was a good-looking woman, a few years older than me, but a little tired-looking from the stress of bringing up a boy on her own. Finley was great though, and you could see the bond between them was something special, even if he did test her patience at times. "Thanks, Mum," said Esther. "That was great," as she laid her knife and fork down on her empty plate. "It was more of a team effort, to be honest," Mum replied, smiling at me. "Then thank you too, James," she said, ever so slightly sarcastically, knowing by the clear signs of a hangover written all over me that I likely played a very small part in the preparation of any food. "No problem," I said. Finley used his knife to roll around the remains of his dinner, which was all his vegetables, as me and my mum finished what was left on our plates. "Finish your food, Finley," Esther snapped, bored at having the same situation play out whenever he didn't fancy eating the healthy part of his meals. My mum stood and stacked her, mine and Esther's plates, then took them out to the kitchen. "Hey Jimmy," called Finley, "look." I looked to my side and saw my nephew using a stick of carrot to simulate smoking a cigarette. "Eat your bloody food, Finley," Esther snapped, "or you get no dessert, I mean it." Esther was stressed more than usual today, partly due to me leaving, I think, worrying about the trouble I may get into whilst away, without her or my mum being there to bail me out. But also, she was worried about Mum, who was really worried about me. There was a giant vacuum of worry circulating and it seemed to be entirely my fault, which, to be honest, it was. "This is killing her, you know," a statement and question all rolled into one. I nodded, with a slight shrug of my shoulders to boot. What could I say? I felt like I needed this, and my mum and Esther were meant to be the strong ones. How come I'm the only person who didn't seem to think my trying pastas new is a bad idea? Other than Finley, of course, my darling nephew who thinks the proverbial sun shines from my backside, bless him. "Have you decided how long you'll be away yet?" she asked. "I can't be here all the time checking on Mum. I've got this little brat to look after. This better not be some extended boys' holiday." "It isn't. Always drinking and shoving that shit up your nose." "Mummy, you swore," said Finley, giggling away at his mum's loss of control. "Quiet, Finley," she said, turning her attention to the apple of her eye. "Take your plate out to your nan." "But I haven't finished my vegetables." "Just take your plate out to Nanny and ask for a bowl of ice cream." Finley slipped down off his chair, picked up his plate, walked around the table and gave me a wink when Esther wouldn't have been able to see. I love my nephew, cheeky little sod that he is. "Listen, S, I know I got problems. I know it will upset Mum, me not being here. And I know I got to get off the gear once and for all," I said, truthfully and open-hearted, as is the only way when speaking to someone who knows you better than you know yourself. "But to do that, I need a change of scenery. I need to get away from here, like a fresh start, even if it's just for a couple of months." I think Esther knew deep down that it wasn't a completely bonkers idea, drastic action to cause a drastic change. The craziness of it almost made it seem like a good idea, the more I thought about it anyway. "Just as long as you sort yourself out, James." She reached across the table and placed her hands on mine, a big sister who had seen her little brother make more than his fair share of mistakes. She looked me straight in the eyes and gave me another one of those serious messages that she'd had to convey to me every now and again throughout my life. "Get clean, James. Just get clean." Esther and Finley had left not long after eating. The day was drawing to a close and lately she was enforcing Finley's bedtime as never before, adamant that showing him who's boss would give him a bit of stability and maybe a bit of direction in life at a later date. It crossed my mind that this was the sort of disciplined upbringing that we lacked as kids, although I didn't say anything to her or Mum, of course. Besides, Esther turned out all right, so it would be unfair to put any blame on my mum for my shortfalls. I had just finished doing the washing up when Mum entered the kitchen and put a dirty cup on the sideboard. Why is there always something that appears just as you are drying your hands? Mum rested her head on my shoulder as I washed up the cup and dried my hands once more on the tea towel. "So you've got everything packed and you know where your passport is?" she asked once more. "Yes, Mum," for the third time I said. "All packed, passport ready, cash changed up." I put the tea towel to one side and turned to face her. I could see the sadness and worry on her face. "I just don't want you stressing out later when things aren't where they're supposed to be," she said, putting her arms around me and pulling me close. "And your tablets? Did you get to the doctors for more tablets?" "No, Mum," I replied. "I've stopped the tablets. I want to try and do this on my own." I love my mum, although if you knew half the shit that I'd put her through these last few years, you'd be forgiven for thinking otherwise. She's always been there for me, wasted the last of her savings on unsuccessfully putting me through rehab, had me crying on her shoulder through bouts of depression, and was even the one who found me when I overdosed. I must be draining the life out of her. Nobody deserves a break like my old dear. Going away wasn't just for me. It's not too late to change your mind and stay, she said. You don't have to go through with this. Mum, I've quit my job, given up the flat and sold my car. It's a bit late to be getting cold feet, don't you think? I'm just worried about you being all the way out there by yourself. I know you are, Mum, but I don't want you to worry about me. I want you to start looking after yourself. Do some things that you want to do, for you, you know? I stepped back from my mum's embrace and held her gently by the arms, looking into her eyes and seeing the pain and torture in her soul. I won't be gone forever, and when I'm back, I'll be back for good. I let go and slowly made my way to the door towards the hallway and stairs. I'm going to go and pack a few last bits and hit the sack, I said, and then turned to see her standing over the sink, wiping a tear from her cheek. I rested my head against the door frame and breathed out a gentle sigh. Nobody likes to see the mother suffer the way that she was clearly suffering, but I was the cause of the suffering and knew that some time away from this sorry excuse of a life that I had built for myself would be a good thing for me, and ultimately a good thing for her, to see me come through it and shine like the younger me that made her proud and gave her the happiness that I see in her eyes when she is playing with Finley. I'll wake you up before I leave in the morning, Mum. I left her standing at the sink, no doubt about to examine the washing up I just did, not knowing that I knew she always checked the job I'd done, and Esther's too when she had done it. She really was a little fragile. I'm glad that Esther and Finley would be there when I'm gone, because otherwise, this personal project of mine wouldn't have been an option.
Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thank you.